Have you ever felt trapped in your own thoughts? Have you ever felt stuck in your own mind, limited by fear, self-doubt, and the obstacles life constantly throws at you? Do you long for an unshakable spirit, a mindset so strong that nothing can break it? Stoicism has existed for thousands of years to help people develop exactly that. It's not just a philosophy, it's a practice that allows you to overcome any adversity. The Stoic masters believe that while we cannot control the outside world, we have full control over how we respond to it. Instead of being manipulated by circumstances, Stoics learn to master their minds, strengthen their will, and become undefeatable. As the philosopher Epictetus once said, "Man is not worried by real problems, so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems." What does this mean? It means that most of our limitations don't come from the outside world, but from within our own minds. In this video, we'll explore how the Stoic masters trained themselves to become unstoppable and how you can do the same. These lessons aren't just for philosophers, they're for you right now. Principle number 1, distinguish between what you can control and what you cannot. Epictetus once said, "There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will." This quote serves as a profound reminder of how we should approach life. We cannot control everything, but we can control how we react. However, one of the clearest signs of a lack of wisdom is the habit of constant blame. When someone repeatedly blames circumstances, other people, or even fate, they rob themselves of control over their own life. They place responsibility on external factors instead of looking inward. But in reality, life is never perfect and challenges are inevitable. Stoicism teaches us that instead of wasting energy complaining, we should focus on what we can change. Imagine a promising athlete getting injured before an important competition. He has two choices: blame fate, his coach, or the unfair circumstances, or focus on recovery and come back stronger. A wise person understands that resentment changes nothing. It is resilience, discipline, and willpower that determine whether he can rise from adversity. Suppose he spends all day lamenting the unfairness of fate, blaming his teammates for excessive training, or criticizing his coach for not foreseeing the injury. What would be the result of such thoughts? Nothing but stagnation, helplessness, and a mind stuck in the past. But if he shifts his approach, accepts that injuries are an inevitable part of sports, and starts focusing on what he can do, following a recovery plan, strengthening his mental resilience, and studying new strategies, he will open a new path for himself. Legendary athletes are not those who never fail, but those who know how to rise after every setback. The blame mentality is not only a sign of weakness, but also the greatest barrier to personal growth. When you blame others, you give up personal responsibility. When you give up responsibility, you lose the power to change your life. That is why Stoics always remind themselves, nothing is worse than being controlled by things beyond their reach. They choose to focus on what they can control: their actions, thoughts, and emotions. We have all encountered people who never take responsibility for their mistakes. They always find excuses, complain about injustice, and blame everything but themselves. But if you take a moment to observe, you will realize that the most successful and resilient individuals share one common trait: they take ownership of their lives. They do not waste time on complaints. They accept reality and do their best within their capabilities. A wise person does not look for someone to blame, they look for solutions. A foolish person complains about the wind, while a wise person learns how to adjust the sails. Stoicism does not teach us to avoid hardship. It teaches us to face it with calmness and clarity. True growth only comes when we understand that no one but ourselves is responsible for our lives. So how do we break free from the habit of blaming? Start by asking yourself, what is within my control? If something can be changed, take action. If not, learn to accept it. Blaming is easy, but acceptance and moving forward are the paths to strength and resilience. Principle number 2, turn adversity into opportunity. Many of us understand that adversity is inevitable. Some people thrive during difficult times, while others struggle just to get out of bed in the morning. Those with true resilience not only navigate the murky waters of uncertainty, but also turn adversity into opportunity. They see it as essential fuel for their life journey. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor of Rome, once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This quote is not just a philosophy, but a guiding principle for how we face life's challenges. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people does not lie in the difficulties they encounter, but in how they respond to them. Instead of fearing failure, see it as a lesson for growth. Obstacles are not walls blocking our path, but doors that test our perseverance and adaptability. When a path is blocked, the Stoics believe that there is no reason to stop. Instead, we should find a way to use the very obstacle as leverage to move forward. In reality, the greatest successes often come from the most bitter failures. Take the story of Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC. At the age of 65, when many people were thinking about retirement, he began his journey across the United States to introduce his fried chicken recipe. But instead of warm handshakes and approval, he received over 1,000 rejections. For most people, this would have been the end of the road, but Sanders did not see failure as failure. He saw it as an opportunity to improve, to keep trying, until he found someone who believed in his recipe. Before becoming one of the most famous fast food brands in the world, Sanders' life was far from easy. He worked various jobs to make a living as a firefighter, an insurance salesman, and even running a small roadside restaurant. However, when his restaurant was forced to close due to a newly constructed road, Sanders did not let this defeat him. He refused to give up his passion for fried chicken. Instead, he persisted in experimenting and refining his recipe until it reached perfection. With just a pressure cooker and an unshakable belief in the value of his special fried chicken formula, he drove from town to town pitching his idea to restaurants. After more than 1,000 rejections, he finally found a restaurant willing to use his recipe. This marked a crucial turning point, allowing him to gradually build the KFC empire. Today, KFC is not just a global brand, but a living testament to turning adversity into opportunity. Sanders' story is clear proof that failure is not the end, but a chance to learn, grow, and achieve even greater success. Smart people do not try to avoid failure. They seek to learn from it. They understand that no path to success is free of obstacles. Challenges are tests to reveal how strong we truly are. If every failure makes you stop trying, you are the one setting limits for yourself. But if you see each setback as a step closer to success, then nothing can stand in your way. The Stoic philosophy teaches that we cannot control what happens to us, but we can completely control how we respond. Those who cannot manage their emotions, who easily crumble in the face of challenges, will remain trapped in the limitations they set for themselves. But those who are mentally strong do not just face adversity, they use it as a tool for growth. So the next time you encounter a major challenge, ask yourself, is this truly an obstacle, or is it an opportunity for me to grow? When you change your perspective, you will realize that no failure is ever wasted. Only those who refuse to learn truly fail. Have you ever faced adversity only to later realize it was an opportunity for growth? Share your story in the comments so we can learn and grow together. Principle No. 3. Control your emotions and stay calm. Have you ever felt like your emotions were a storm sweeping away all control? Have you ever made a decision in anger and later regretted it, or let fear hold you back from moving forward? If the answer is yes, you are not alone. However, Stoic philosophy teaches that we are not slaves to our emotions. We can train our minds to remain calm even in the most challenging situations. Seneca, one of the great philosophers of Stoicism, once said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This reminds us that fear, anxiety, and anger largely stem not from events themselves, but from how we interpret them. This aligns with Stoic thinking. We are not affected by what happens to us, but by how we perceive it. In other words, calmness is not something we are born with. It is a skill we can develop. Consider the life of Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor who ruled during a turbulent period. He faced war, disease, and political conspiracies. Yet instead of being consumed by negative emotions, he maintained clarity by reminding himself that emotions should not overpower reason. In Meditations, he wrote about controlling thoughts to make wise decisions. This was not indifference, but mental discipline, acknowledging emotions without letting them dictate actions. Anger may be an instinctive response to offense, but the Stoics understood that it is rarely useful. Seneca argued that anger is like a fire that flares up fiercely but quickly burns out, often leaving regret in its wake. When angry people lose their ability to think clearly, that's why the Stoics trained themselves to accept reality calmly rather than get swept away by negative emotions. Fear is another powerful emotion that can weaken the will. Many people do not chase their dreams for fear of failure, do not speak the truth for fear of criticism, or do not step out of their comfort zones for fear of the unknown. But as Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The Stoics understood that fear should not be avoided, but controlled. When facing fear, instead of letting it take over, they would ask, what is the worst that can happen? Can I control it? If not, then worrying is pointless. If they could control it, the solution was not fear, but action. Training oneself to stay calm does not mean eliminating emotions entirely. The Stoics did not teach people to become emotionless machines, but to use emotions in a controlled manner. We can feel without being ruled by our feelings. A person can recognize their anger, but instead of reacting immediately, they can step back, observe their emotions, and respond rationally. This is the power of an unshakable mind. Mastering emotions is a lifelong journey, but every day is an opportunity for progress. When someone insults you, see it as a test of your composure. When you feel anxious about the future, remember that worry changes nothing except weakening your spirit. When anger rises, remind yourself that it does not solve problems. It only makes them worse. The Stoics did not believe in fate. They believed in self-control. They did not allow emotions to rule them. They learned to rule their emotions. A mind trained in calmness is a mind that cannot be defeated. And when you control your emotions, you are no longer limited by external factors. You become the strongest version of yourself, unshaken, fearless, and unstoppable. Principle number 4, practice amor fati. Amor fati means love of fate. This concept originates from ancient Greek and Roman Stoic philosophers and encourages us to embrace whatever life brings in order to reduce our struggles. Let's face it, struggle is nothing more than our resistance to what is. We often spend a lot of time in this state, and as long as we continue resisting reality, instead of practicing amor fati, our struggles persist. But what if we stopped resisting the things we cannot change? What if instead of complaining, we chose to accept and make the most of them? This is the essence of amor fati, love your fate. It is not just about acceptance, but about seeing every experience, whether good or bad, as an opportunity for growth. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather wish that what happens happens the way it happens. Then you will be happy." If we constantly wish for life to unfold according to our desires, we will always be trapped in disappointment. But if we adjust our mindset to align with the flow of fate, every event, no matter how difficult, becomes an essential part of our journey. Thomas Edison is a living testament to amor fati. He did not see failure as an obstacle, but as a necessary step toward success. When one of his inventions failed, he did not become discouraged. This is the spirit of an unbreakable mind, a mind that does not see limits, only lessons and opportunities. Edison spent years researching and experimenting to invent the incandescent light bulb, a breakthrough that changed the world. But what many people don't know is that he faced countless failures before finding the perfect solution. More than 10,000 unsuccessful experiments did not deter him. Instead, each failure was an opportunity to learn, refine his methods, and move closer to success. When his factory burned down in 1914, instead of despairing, he told his son, "Go get your mother and all her friends, then you'll never see a fire like this again." This is the essence of amor fati, not just accepting adversity, but using it as a catalyst for reinvention and growth. When you practice amor fati, you no longer fear failure or hardship. You no longer feel like a victim of circumstances. Instead, you learn to see every moment in life as a gift. Every event, every challenge helps shape you into a stronger version of yourself. When you view life through this lens, you realize that no obstacle can truly hold you back. There are only challenges that make you more resilient. What's important is that amor fati does not mean passively accepting everything without action. On the contrary, it requires you to actively leverage your circumstances, find opportunities in adversity, and use them to grow. When you truly love your fate, you don't just survive challenges, you transform them into fuel for progress. Imagine waking up one day and embracing everything that happens as a perfect part of life. You no longer complain about small inconveniences or worry about things beyond your control. Every failure is just a stepping stone. Every difficulty is just a lesson. This is the true power of amor fati. It frees you from negativity and turns you into an unstoppable force. And once you have practiced amor fati, you are ready to take it to the next level: mental discipline. This is the next step in becoming truly indomitable, not just by accepting fate, but by cultivating the strength of will to overcome any challenge. But how do you build mental discipline? Let's explore that next. Principle number 5. Mental discipline. Many people dream of success, but only a few achieve it. They are not luckier than others. They are simply the ones who have trained their minds to be strong. Every day, Stoic philosophy advises that success does not come from a single grand action, but from small daily habits. This is not just a philosophy, but an unchanging rule. No one is born with an iron will. A strong mindset does not appear in a moment. It is the result of repeated small choices made with absolute discipline. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." We often think of freedom as breaking free from all constraints, but the truth is quite the opposite. A person who cannot control their emotions, who lets anger or laziness take over, will never reach success no matter how many opportunities come their way. On the other hand, those who discipline themselves carve out their own path. They do not rely on fleeting motivation, but on a system of habits trained over time. Kobe Bryant, a basketball legend, did not become one of the greatest athletes of all time by chance. Even at the peak of his career, he maintained the habit of training for 4 hours a day, waking up at 4:00 a.m. to perfect every move. Those who only see his achievements but not the process behind them may think it was natural talent. But in reality, what made Kobe Bryant extraordinary was not talent, it was discipline. That is the difference between an ordinary person and an exceptional one: commitment to oneself, even when no one is watching. Similarly, Marcus Aurelius, the great emperor and steadfast Stoic philosopher, maintained the habit of writing in his journal every day. In those pages, he did not just record his thoughts, but reminded himself of his principles, how to control emotions, and stay steady in the face of adversity. When betrayed, he did not let anger consume him. When faced with political turmoil, he remained calm and acted rationally. None of this was instinctive. It was the result of relentless mental discipline. There are days when we wake up and don't want to do anything. We feel tired, we want to procrastinate, and we find excuses to give up. But it is in these moments that discipline truly matters, not when we feel motivated, but when we have no motivation at all, yet still push forward. That is the difference between those who reach their goals and those who remain stuck in a cycle of disappointment. Mental discipline is not just a tool for achieving success. It is also the path that brings people closer to God. Discipline is not only about the body or the mind, but also about nurturing the soul. A person may have talent and intelligence, but without perseverance and faith, they will easily fall before challenges. On the other hand, those who learn to master themselves are not only strong in adversity, but also find peace within because they understand that everything happens for a reason and that they are walking the path God has set for them. So how do we develop mental discipline? It doesn't require drastic changes or grand decisions. It is simply about choosing the right thing every day, every hour, even when it is difficult. Wake up early even when you want to sleep in. Exercise even when you feel tired. Read a book even when your mind wants to scroll through your phone. Be patient even when you want to give up. Because these small actions, when repeated, shape the person you become. And one day when you look back, you will realize that you have become a version of yourself that no one can stop. A person may have few resources, but if they have mental discipline, they will always find a way. On the other hand, a person may have everything in their hands, but without self-control, it will all eventually slip away. Finally, remember this: a strong mindset is not something you are born with. It is something you must train every day. Principle number 6. Accept death as a motivation to live. Fully, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. Death is perhaps life's greatest invention. It is the agent of change. We cannot run from it, nor can we control when it comes. But we can choose how to face it with fear and avoidance, or with acceptance and using it as a powerful motivation to live fully. Stoic philosophy does not see death as something to fear. On the contrary, it serves as a powerful reminder that our time is limited. Seneca once said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." This quote reflects a reality we often postpone. Important things live as if we have endless time, yet fear the inevitable. This contradiction leads us to waste precious time on trivial matters instead of focusing on what truly matters. Seneca also reminded us, "Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's account every day. One who daily puts the finishing touches to his life is never in want of time." He did not say this to instill anxiety, but to awaken our awareness. When we understand that every moment could be our last, we stop procrastinating, stop worrying about minor things, and focus on what truly matters. When we observe those who live with a clear awareness of death, we see that they are not afraid, but instead live more intensely than ever. These people cherish every moment, love more deeply, take more risks, and refuse to let fear control their actions. They understand that one day everything will end, and because of that, every day becomes an opportunity to live fully. Awareness of death does not make us pessimistic. On the contrary, it urges us to take action. If you knew you only had 1 year left to live, would you still hesitate when making important decisions? Would you continue wasting time on meaningless things, or would you spend every moment doing what truly matters? Stoicism teaches that life only has real value when we use our time consciously. No one knows what tomorrow will bring, but today, this very moment is the only thing we can be certain of. So make the most of it. Do not let yourself get caught up in meaningless worries, endless desires, or irrational fears. Focus on self-discipline, becoming the best version of yourself, and creating value in life. Seneca lived this way. He did not waste time on superficial pleasures, but devoted himself to studying philosophy, teaching, and cultivating virtue. He understood that death is not the end, but a powerful reminder that life only has meaning when we truly live. This mental preparation allowed him to face every challenge with calmness, without fear, without regret. Many people merely exist without truly living. They are trapped in material concerns, endless ambitions, and unnecessary fears. They wait for a perfect moment to start living, but that moment never comes. If you do not act now, you will never truly live. Accepting death does not mean living recklessly or thoughtlessly. It means cherishing every moment, every opportunity, and every person around you. It means doing what you truly believe in, pursuing the values you hold dear, and not letting fear hold you back. If accepting death helps us live more fully, then living simply is the way to enjoy life more deeply. Too many choices, too many desires, and too many distractions exhaust us and pull us away from what truly matters. In the next section, we will explore how Stoic philosophy teaches us to simplify life in order to find peace and focus on what is truly valuable. Principle number 7, live simply and avoid distractions. We are living in a culture built on distraction, where lack of focus is no longer rare but has become the default state for many. Smartphones, emails, and social media are all tools, but they can also become chains. When a new notification pops up, we stop what we're doing, react instantly, and lose our train of thought. The concerning part is that over time, we don't just endure distractions, we actively seek them. Focus, once an innate ability, has now become a rare skill that must be trained for those who wish to cultivate resilience and an unshakable mindset. The philosophy of Stoicism offers a key principle: live simply and stay away from distractions. Epictetus once said, "If you wish to improve, be content to appear clueless or stupid in extraneous matters. Don't wish to seem knowledgeable." This quote highlights an important truth: to develop mental strength, you need to eliminate the unnecessary. This doesn't mean giving up on learning or knowledge, but rather focusing on what truly matters and ignoring the trivial and superficial. Excessive information work and toxic relationships can drain your willpower. If you're not careful, you may spend your entire life chasing meaningless things only to realize you have never truly lived. Stoics understand that simplicity is not poverty, it is purification. When you live simply, you don't let external things dictate your inner state. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control the world, but you can control how you respond to it." By reducing external distractions, you free up mental energy for what truly matters: self-development, discipline, and long-term goals. History has shown that great ideas are often born in simplicity and stillness. A prime example is Henry David Thoreau, who left urban life to live in the woods at Walden Pond for 2 years. He did not seek isolation out of disdain for society, but to escape distractions and the meaningless busyness of modern life. Thoreau believed that only by removing the superficial could one truly understand oneself and attain intellectual freedom. At Walden Pond, Thoreau spent his time observing nature, writing, and reflecting on the meaning of life. He recorded his experiences in Walden, a classic work on minimalism and spiritual freedom. He believed that people often get trapped in society's endless cycle, constantly chasing material needs while forgetting the value of simplicity. By living in nature, being self-sufficient, and eliminating unnecessary distractions, Thoreau discovered a philosophy of life that led him to true freedom. He realized that life does not require much to be meaningful. What matters more is understanding oneself and the ability to enjoy peaceful moments. This is a lesson for those who seek to cultivate resilience. Simplify life, focus on essentials, and find stillness to nurture both intellect and willpower. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How much of your day is spent on things that truly matter? How much time is wasted scrolling through social media, consuming negative news, or engaging in meaningless conversations? If you want to train your mind to become unstoppable, you must eliminate distractions and concentrate on what is truly important. Practice simplicity in every aspect of life. At work, remove unnecessary tasks and focus on those that create real value. In relationships, choose to surround yourself with people who bring positivity and distance yourself from toxic connections. In your thoughts, let go of unnecessary worries and learn to control your mind. Once you master the art of living simply and refuse to be scattered by trivialities, you will realize that your mental strength grows stronger. When you gain control over your focus, you will see that the world has far fewer limits than you once believed. The only thing holding you back is distraction and a lack of inner discipline. The Stoics did not seek perfection. They sought control over their thoughts and actions. Once you achieve that, nothing will limit you except yourself. The spirit of Stoicism not only helps you overcome limitations, but also makes you resilient in the face of challenges. When you understand that you cannot control everything external, but can fully control how you respond, you develop an unshakable mindset. This does not mean suppressing emotions or giving up on dreams, but learning to face adversity with calmness and clarity. Now share your thoughts. Have you ever applied Stoic thinking to your life? If so, what has changed in you? Leave a comment below and let's discuss. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share it with those who might need it, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss future content. Keep growing by watching the next video displayed on your screen. See you in the next one.